Welcome back to the cryptoworld channel, everyone. My name is Josh, and right now, Bitcoin just made a new all-time high as BlackRock is buying record amounts of Bitcoin, while the price is now repeating history in the short term. So don't be fooled by these short-term bear traps, which I'll talk about in just a moment, alongside Ethereum, which is now getting ready for its next move towards the next price target. So I'll be talking about all of that and more later in the video, so definitely watch to the end. First of all, we need to talk about the Bitcoin ETF news today, because just over the last one day, we saw a record net inflow into the spot Bitcoin ETFs. In fact, this is the first time ever that we have seen a net inflow in one single day that has gone above $1 billion into the Bitcoin ETFs. Because as we can see right here, over the last one day, just yesterday, we saw a net inflow into the spot Bitcoin ETFs of over $1 billion, $1.045 billion, a new record. And if we're looking at the breakdown, we can see BlackRock alone, IBIT, had an inflow of $849 million just yesterday. And so obviously the vast majority of this net inflow was indeed thanks to BlackRock buying a massive amount of Bitcoin. BlackRock alone bought nearly $1 billion worth of Bitcoin just yesterday. And combined with the fact that we saw a relatively small outflow from Grayscale just yesterday of only $79 million, which is relatively small compared to other days where they've had outflows of hundreds of millions of dollars. And so ultimately, when we're looking at all of this together, once again, if we're adding up all of the inflows and subtracting all of those outflows, we're left with a net inflow at the end of the day of over $1 billion. And so obviously, if we're seeing $1 billion of buying pressure each weekday, because obviously this is just one day worth of inflows. And so of course, if we're seeing $1 billion buying up Bitcoin each weekday, obviously that's going to pump the price of Bitcoin much higher. And it's going to be very hard to see any significant pullback in the price of Bitcoin with this much buying pressure. And I've been saying pretty much that exact same thing over the last 1 to 2 months, and I still get a lot of comments on these videos saying we have to see a pullback sometime soon. Surely we're going to see a major pullback or a crash. This is just unsustainable. But you have to understand, pullbacks are caused by more sellers in the market than buyers, and right now there's no one selling this much amount of Bitcoin compared to the amount of buyers in the market right now due to the Bitcoin ETFs. And so like I've also been saying, this time really is different. Obviously, normally it's dangerous to say this time is different, but this time actually is different because, for example, this is the first time in Bitcoin's entire history where we've broken the old all-time high before the halving. So that is definitely something different this time around. And also in this bull market, this is the first bull market in Bitcoin's history where we have massive spot Bitcoin ETFs actually trading on Wall Street with billions upon billions of dollars worth of buying pressure flowing into the Bitcoin ETFs. And so this is not something to be ignored. This is definitely something important to pay attention to because it's record buying pressure flowing into Bitcoin. And so just because perhaps a chart says we should see a pullback sometime soon, we have to remember that we're seeing $1 billion buying up Bitcoin each day. And so once again, as I've also said here on the channel, our only hope of seeing a decent pullback in the price of Bitcoin is either perhaps over a weekend when the Bitcoin ETFs are not trading, or on the other hand, if we actually stop seeing the inflows coming into the Bitcoin ETFs, then perhaps we could see a bit more of a pullback. But for as long as we're seeing these massive inflows into the spot Bitcoin ETFs, then especially during the week on weekdays when the ETFs are trading, there's pretty much no chance that we're going to see a significant pullback in the price of Bitcoin. Obviously, we can see short-term bearish moves like 5 or 10% moves down and then back up. But honestly, I would not be expecting a 30 or 40% pullback with this much buying pressure going on right now. But anyway, taking a look at the Bitcoin chart, and once again here on the weekly time frame, we're clearly breaking out above the old all-time high. Right now, as I record in this video, the price of Bitcoin is trading at roughly around 73,000, which is a fresh new all-time high. And once again, as I've said here on the channel recently, the next significant Fibonacci level to the upside on the larger timeframes is the 1618 Fibonacci extension on the linear settings for the Fibonacci retracement tool, which is sitting at around $102,000. And so if we're measuring from the current price of Bitcoin to 102,000, that's less than a 40% move away. That's only around a 39% pump away. And keep in mind, just over the last 2.5 weeks, we saw around a 40% 42% move to the upside. So if we simply repeat the same gain that we saw over the last 2.5 weeks, then that will place the price of Bitcoin above $100,000. And so that just puts things into perspective. Of course, we're actually not that far away from 100K, even though it seems like a very large price target. And right now, looking at the daily Bitcoin chart, looking at the DXY as well, also on the daily time frame, right now this is still dropping to the downside, which is another bullish signal for Bitcoin and crypto. Because in case you're new to all of this, all you really need to know about this chart right here is basically when the DXY, also known as the US dollar index, is bearish, that is usually bullish for Bitcoin, and vice versa. If the DXY is bullish, that is usually bearish for Bitcoin. And so once again, while the DXY is moving to the downside, that's just another signal telling us that we're likely going to see more bullish price action for Bitcoin. And so obviously here on the larger timeframes, nothing has changed. We're still looking extremely bullish on the larger timeframes, as I've actually been saying here on the channel since below $20,000 at the beginning of last year. You can even check my videos back then. That is where I started to flip much more bullish on the price of Bitcoin. And now if we're zooming into the short term, looking at the 4-hour Bitcoin chart, right now the price of Bitcoin just hit my exact technical price target that I've talked about over the last few days here on the channel. But in case you missed my last few videos, basically I was sharing this price target right here at around 73.3 to 73.4K approximately. And as soon as we saw this breakout above 69,000, I said it's very likely that very soon, just over the coming days, we're going to see the price of Bitcoin come up towards around 73.4K, which has now exactly happened. And now obviously, just because we've hit that technical price target, it does not mean that we cannot go higher. Obviously, we can go higher than that short-term price target. That was just a short-term price target to pay attention to. And honestly, while it's still during the week and the Bitcoin ETFs are still trading, once again, they trade on weekdays, I would not necessarily expect a massive amount of bearish price action unless we see outflows, significant outflows from the Bitcoin ETFs and not as much inflows. And so ultimately, the trend is likely going to continue. Once again, we're clearly within a bullish trend, and we're likely just going to continue this bullish trend further to the upside, especially during the week. But we need to keep an eye out for potential bear traps in the short term, which is something that I talked about here on the channel just yesterday and exactly predicted this short-term move to the downside, trapping a lot of bears to the downside. Because if you watched my last video here on the channel, then you'll know that I talked about just yesterday this rounding top pattern, but how it's not going to result in a massive trend reversal, and instead it's very likely just going to result in a quick move to the downside to grab liquidity, and then we're going to continue higher in the bullish trend later on. And now if we're looking at the current day price action, we can see that that prediction pretty much perfectly played out with that short-term drop to the downside, trapping a lot of bears. Obviously, a lot of people would have gone short right here or sold some Bitcoin thinking we're about to crash, but that is the exact bear trap scenario that I talked about in my last video as the most likely scenario for the price of Bitcoin. And so obviously, just because I'm extremely bullish on the larger trend at play, that does not mean we're only going to see bullish price action, because once again, here in the short term, like here just on the 1 hour time frame, we can see short-term moves to the downside here and there, but don't be fooled by those short-term moves, because when we're zooming out on larger time frames, we're still within a much larger bullish trend. And honestly, I would not be surprised if this continues to repeat itself moving forward. Basically, we see some sort of top and looks like we're going to enter a pullback, and then that just traps bears and we continue higher later on in the bullish trend. But you can actually trade these moves in the price of Bitcoin. Even if we're going to the downside, you can profit from those moves. And personally, I take trades just like that in the price of Bitcoin and other cryptos over on Bybit. So I'll make sure to leave a link to Bybit in the description down below and in the pinned comment. And speaking of Bybit, they just dropped the Bybit card in Australia. That is right, for the fellow Aussies out there, Bybit card is now available in Australia. And I've been using this card myself. And honestly, it's actually a pretty good crypto card, because unlike some other crypto cards out there, you do not have to lock up any funds or lock up any crypto or buy any crypto in order to get this card. You can just have your existing crypto, whether that's Bitcoin or Ethereum or stablecoins or whatever. And basically, if you have that crypto just sitting in your Bybit account and you're tapping this card, it actually uses that crypto. It basically sells a bit of that crypto to use for the payment. And so once again, that is just something that I'm actually using, especially when it comes to crypto. I'm just having some of my crypto sitting on Bybit and using this card. And basically, as crypto goes higher, I'm able to buy more stuff, which is great. great. And also, if you use the link down below this video, it'll take you to this page right here where you can sign up to the Bybit card if you want to. And if you use that link to sign up to the Bybit card, you can get an extra 25 USD bonus on the card just by signing up to the card, making a deposit, and actually using the card. And that's on top of the other $30,000 deposit bonus if you use the link down below this video to Bybit and make a deposit over at Bybit and start trading. And so obviously, if you're trading crypto anyway, or if you simply want a crypto card to spend your crypto without selling it back to a bank account, then you might as well check all of this out. Once again, links down below in the description and in the pinned comment. But anyway, getting back to the Bitcoin chart, looking at the 8-hour time frame, and right now we're still potentially forming a bearish divergence pattern. But like I've said in recent videos, even though we're potentially forming the pattern with higher highs in the price and lower highs in the RSI, at least for now, this is not yet confirmed. And also, even if it does confirm, like I said earlier, with the Bitcoin ETFs buying a lot of Bitcoin, I would not necessarily expect a significant move to the downside due to this bearish divergence. And so even if it does confirm, which right now it's not yet confirmed, but even if it does confirm, I do expect either a sideways consolidation or perhaps a slight pullback before continuing higher later on, kind of like what we saw back here or back here, for example. And if we're taking a quick look at the Bitcoin liquidation heat map, obviously just yesterday I used this chart right here to essentially predict that short-term move to the downside before continuing the bullish trend later, because one of the strong indicators telling us that we were due to see a quick move just slightly to the downside in the short term was the fact that there was a lot of liquidity below the Bitcoin price. And in case you're new to all of this, usually the price of Bitcoin moves towards where there's most liquidity, especially when we're talking about the short-term moves here. When there's usually a lot of liquidity close to the Bitcoin price, we usually see the price of Bitcoin go towards that level. And so once again, that's exactly what happened over the last one day. Obviously, we did actually go a little bit lower below that area of liquidity, but either way, we did see that quick move to the downside first, and then the larger bullish move back to the upside second, like I said in my last video. And now if we're zooming into the short term, honestly, we're not seeing a lot of new liquidity here in the short term, at least as of right now. Obviously, over the last one day, we did see a small amount of liquidity here, which has already been hit to the upside. And other than that, we only have a small amount of liquidity to the upside at around 74,000 and a small amount at around 71,500. But ultimately, we just need to wait to see this chart mature and more liquidity zones start to show up again very soon. So once again, I'll keep you up to date on this chart here in these videos each day, so make sure you subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these important update videos. But anyway, getting into the Ethereum part of this video, this is on the weekly time frame, and right now the price of ETH is continuing the bullish breakout to the upside as expected. And right now we're essentially targeting the old all-time high. We're heading towards the old all-time high, which is sitting at around 4.8 to 4.9k. And also, if you measure out from the current price to that all-time high, that's only about a 20% move away. So once we see another 20% gain, the price of ETH is basically at all-time highs. And so obviously, when we're talking about the larger trend at play, we're still clearly within a bullish trend on the weekly time frame, forming significant higher lows and higher highs. And we're also about to hit this massive bullish price target for the price of ETH, which is sitting at around 4.3k. And this is a price target that I've been talking about here on the channel since the price was all the way back down here at around $2,000 at the initial breakout for this massive bullish ascending triangle pattern. And back then, when the price was at $2,000, a lot of people were commenting on my videos saying there's no way the price could possibly go to $4,000 in a few months. That's impossible. But obviously, right now, we are getting very close to this technical price target, and it's looking like pretty much any day now we could hit that price target once again at around 4.3k. And so if you were watching my videos a few months ago and you actually took this trade, if you simply just bought Ethereum, or if you entered a long position around this breakout, obviously right now you're doing very well. And in case you're wondering, right now I am still in my Ethereum long position that I shared here on the channel as an opportunity right down here. And as I've also said here on the channel, my strategy when it comes to that long position is to simply leave it open and not close it too early. because honestly, one of the biggest mistakes in a crypto bull market is to sell too early or close a position too early, because ultimately when it comes to trading and investing, you want your winners to be big winners and you only want your losers to be small losers. You don't want small winners and big losers, you want it the other way around. And so that's exactly what I'm doing right here. This is obviously a winning trade and I'm not closing that winning trade too early because right now it is still continuing to bring in profits. And in order to protect myself in the case of any significant downside scenario, once again, I don't exactly expect a massive crash to the downside, but let's just say that somehow happened, then personally I'll be completely protected because I do have a stop loss on that trade, which I'm slowly moving further into profits as the trade moves further into profits. And once again, I took that trade right there over on Bybit. So if you want to maximize your profits in crypto by taking these trades just like this, then make sure to check out Bybit. Once again, link down below if you want to get those extra bonuses. But if you missed this trading opportunity, do not worry. There's always more opportunities which I share here on the channel. So that's why it's important to subscribe to this channel with notifications turned on so that you don't miss out on any of these new opportunities. And speaking of trading opportunities, right now we're potentially about to see another one with a short-term breakout here for the price of ETH and now a retest from this previous resistance, which is now acting as new support. And that area, which is currently acting as new support, is sitting in between around 39.50 to 4,000. And basically, while the price of ETH is holding above that price range right there, we have this short-term price target to the upside, which is sitting at roughly around 4.3k. Once again, very similar to this massive price target, also sitting at around 4.3k. And essentially, this short-term price target right here on the 4-hour time frame would only get invalidated if we see a confirmed break with candle closes back below around 39.50. And in that case, we should find more support right here at around 38.60 and more support in this price range in between around 37.50 to 3.8k. And if we're taking a quick look at the price of Solana, right now we're continuing the bullish breakout above that previous area of resistance, still sitting in between around 120 to 140. And so obviously here on the weekly time frame, we are indeed looking bullish for the price of Solana, forming significant higher lows and higher highs. So honestly, over the last one day, nothing has really changed here for Solana on the weekly time frame. And so if you want to know more about this chart right here for Solana, then check out my last video here on the channel. And if you want to actually know how to trade any of these moves in the price of crypto, then check out these videos popping up right here on your screen. Because the video in the top left shows you how you can long or short crypto to make money if the price is bullish or bearish. And the video in the bottom left shows you how you can easily profit from choppy sideways price action. But anyway, that is everything that I have to say for today. I really hope you enjoyed and I'll see you all in the next video.